Three and out on this Tuesday. Glad you are with us. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, thanks for making us a part of your day. A lot to get to here on the shows. We count you down towards the NFL draft coming up Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And joining us here right off the jump from ESPN, SEC Network, and more, former Auburn center Cole Kubelik joins us here on Three and Out. Cole, welcome to the show. How are you?
How you doing? Well, guys. Appreciate you having me.
Hey, we appreciate you coming on, and certainly college football fans obviously watching Urban Meyer in Jacksonville, and he's talked about the difference between drafting and recruiting. How do you think this goes for a guy who's used to going out and making the pitch to come play for me versus going out and picking?
Well, I mean, I think he surrounded himself by people who have a pretty good idea how this is going to work. He knows that it's going to be different as far as the expectation. He's probably going to have to evaluate guys a little bit more on what they're doing behind the scenes, how they handle themselves, how they're going to act when they're off on their own. They're not going to have as much control over certain guys inside their program or their facility like he would in college. So I think the personality might be a little bit more important as far as bringing guys in. And he's even said that he's going to turn a lot of this over to his staff when it comes to game planning, X's and O's, things of that nature. So I think Urban Meyer's got a chance to be successful just because he knows what winning football looks like, and he's been around it for a long time. We haven't seen college to the NFL work that much, but if there's a guy that I could do it that I think could be successful with, that Urban Meyer would be one of those guys.
And Cole, obviously, when you talk about guys like, you got intriguing guys like Mac Jones, who definitely, is deserving of a first-round pick. But then you got the curious case of a guy like Justin Fields. Obviously, it came out that he said he has epilepsy. People saying he might fall in the draft. Why do you think a guy like Justin Fields, for which since he left Georgia has been lights out, it's like people try to make up things about him to try to justify him slipping if he does indeed slip in the draft?
I think there's always going to be people inside certain organizations that are going to put things out, whether they want another guy to be able to be there when they pick, or they want that person to be there when they pick, or to just try to shuffle things around, maybe to disguise the fact that they're actually going to pick him. So I think you take everything that you hear with a little bit of a grain of salt. That in particular bit of information I thought was, basically a bit of a HIPAA violation. I was a little bit bummed that got out and that was reported, because I feel like that was something that he shared with teams, trying to be honest with them, disclosing personal health information that I actually don't think is going to impact him that much as a football player. But I think some of it has to do with the situation at Ohio State and the scheme that he was in. It's one that doesn't require a lot of reads. It's one that has a lot of quick ball distribution. But, I mean, athletically, physically, he's as gifted and has the tools that every quarterback in this draft has. He just hadn't been asked to do the same things that some of those guys have been asked to do. So some of it just depends on what you're looking for and what you want your quarterback to be able to do and what you want them to be successful with, or what you're going to ask of them. Some guys that might be more mentally before the ball snaps. Some guys that might be a little bit later in that process. Some guys you might want to carry the football 10 to 12 times a game, even between the tackles. Other guys you're not as concerned about mobility. So I don't really know if he's going to go as far as I've seen some people say him at the bottom of the first. I think that this league is too quarterback driven, and there's too many people that recognize his level of talent that are going to let him fall that far. If he gets down around 10, you're going to see a lot of teams ready to move up and get him off the board. So I don't see a dramatic slide coming for Justin Fields.
And Cole, speaking of quarterbacks, Mac Jones, a guy that since the season has ended has shot up the draft boards. Do you think we should be surprised if he does go number 3 on Thursday night?
No, because I think he's a good fit for that offense. Sark ran a motion-based offense at Alabama, and they ran. A lot of people wouldn't really believe this if you just looked at the numbers, because John Mechie was almost a 1,000-yard receiver. We saw what Waddle was doing early in the season, and obviously Smith maybe had the best season for a wide receiver statistically that we've ever seen in college football. And they were a multi-tight end team. They were the majority of the snaps they played with 2, sometimes 3 tight ends. So I think that it's a very similar scheme that Shanahan runs in San Francisco, and that would be one of the reasons that they would feel Mac Jones is the perfect fit for what they do. I think he'd have a great idea of how it's supposed to operate, how you manage the formation, the movement, and then some of the heavy play action stuff is exactly what he was doing for Sark at Alabama. So I think from a skill set and an experience standpoint, Mac would be a perfect fit for what they want to do. I just think 49ers fans are upset that it doesn't feel a lot different than what they have right now in Jimmy Garoppolo. But We know how these administrators are. We know how these front office guys are. They fall in love with somebody, and all of a sudden there's no one that's going to talk them out of it. They believe that's their guy, and they're going to make it happen any way they can.
And Cole, obviously nothing is more intriguing than the NFL draft. But when we look back on this draft, and with so many guys, the headliner being Trevor Lawrence, you're talking about the receivers, you're talking about the running backs. Penei Sewell is about as good as you're going to get at the left tackle position, even though he don't got the longest arms. What are we going to remember the most about this draft? Maybe 3-4 years from now.
I think unfortunately, we'll remember the quarterbacks that didn't pan out, because we're going to get a lot of quarterbacks go early in this draft. I think you could even see some teams at the bottom of the first begin to extend on the next wave of quarterbacks, which would be Kyle Trask, Kellen Mond, David Sills. One of those guys is going to get off much earlier than we think, just because I think people are going to go ahead and look in and project into next year's draft. They're not going to see a lot of quarterbacks that they really like either. But then you're always going to have a Mac Jones that sort of comes out of nowhere, or a Trey Lance that people weren't necessarily thinking was going to be a first-round guy a year in advance of when they were available. So I think that will be one. Number two, I think there are going to be great defensive players in the NFL from this draft. None of them are going to be off the board extremely early. I mean, we're looking at a situation where Detroit at 7 or Dallas at 10 could be where the first defensive player comes off the board. I don't know if it's going to be Christian Barmore, Micah Parsons, J.C. Horn, whoever it is. Some of these guys are going to fall and end up having great NFL careers. So I think we could end up looking back and saying, man, there were some great defensive players, whether it's Nick Bolton coming out of Missouri. There were some great defensive players that were in this draft, and for some reason they all fell. They all slid. Why were people not moving to get a couple of these guys off the board a little bit earlier? And that might be, I think, one of our big takeaways 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now.
And Cole, before we let you go, one of those defensive players here from our area, Richard Lecount, out of Georgia, might he be a complete steal of the draft, with a lot of people have him sliding out of the first round into the second, maybe third round?
No, I think he's absolutely one. And we talk about how pass happy the NFL is. Well, that obviously takes a quarterback, it takes receivers, it takes offensive linemen, but I think sort of the forgotten about position there becomes corner and safety. You're going to need guys who can go out and help get you stops. You're going to need people who can cover in different situations. And I think Richard Lecount, somebody who's been asked to do that, whether it's play deep safety, play over the middle of the slot, play some nickel, play outside. He's got the flexibility to be able to do that. So there doesn't really feel like there's on the surface, a great safety, a game-changing safety in this draft. So he's one that if he ends up being second, third, fourth safety off the board, I think we could be looking back and wondering why that was, and then he ends up being one of the steals of this draft.
Cole Kubelik joining us here on 3 and Out. Cole, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Appreciate it. Cole Kubelik joining us here on 3 and Out. And Ben, obviously a lot to cover there with Cole in a short amount of time, but certainly all the talk about the draft is quarterbacks. But this draft on a whole is kind of been put out there as one of the deepest drafts we can remember, yet we're only talking about the quarterbacks. I think there's going to be a lot of value picks, even down into the middle of the second round, of guys that in most years, if the hysteria around the quarterbacks wasn't there, could have been first rounders.
Absolutely. And I think Cole makes a great point when he said, we could be talking pick 7 to pick 10 before the first defensive player comes off the board. I know you're going to have your headliners. You got the quarterbacks, and I understand that, but we ain't even got the Trey Smith. We ain't got the Alex Leatherwood and the big uglies that keep these quarterbacks, upright. Christian Barmore is probably one of the more intriguing players in the draft when you look at how his stock rose right at the end of the year with Alabama on that defensive line. You talk about J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain, Nick Bolton hit everything that moves out of Missouri. This is a heat-seeking linebacker. Richard Lecount is going to be a more intriguing name because, at the end of the day, you can start for 3 or 4 years at the University of Georgia. I don't care about what you run in the 40. The guy can play football. The tape doesn't lie. So, yeah, Kevin, I know we're going to be talking about the headliners, the quarterbacks, which up to 5, maybe 6 could potentially go in the first round with guys like Justin Fields potentially going 27, pick 32. But I think what is all said and done, we're going to be talking about guys that weren't headliners who are going to end up being some of the best value picks and, dare I say, best players that come out of this draft.
And again, very interesting to see how the quarterbacks are talked about and looked at, as he said. Probably unfortunate that the news about Justin Fields got put out publicly, but maybe some reason for why people have him sliding down the board. It's just some of the unknown there with that situation. So again, I still think that the draft kind of starts with Atlanta because San Francisco, you don't know who, but they're going to take a quarterback, and Atlanta really kind of throws everything up in the air. I think their pick becomes eminently valuable at number 4 because you essentially have the first positional player of the draft laying there. So to me, Terry Fontenot's got a lot of good problems to worry about over the next couple of nights before we get to this draft.
Absolutely. I mean, Terry Fontenot, just being honest. I mean, with so much, listen, more news comes out on the week of the draft than you probably have leading up to the draft. Terry Fontenot is letting people know, look, the reason why I'm fielding calls for Julio Jones or any player is because we have no money. The reason why, I wish we weren't at the 4th pick overall is because we have no money. Like the position, don't want to have to pay the money. So, Kevin, something we talked about yesterday, do they stay with that number 4 or do they use it as leverage to be able to move back in the draft? Because at the end of the day, money is not going to appear for the Falcons because the draft is coming. It doesn't work like that, but Terry Fontenot is one of those guys who we're looking forward to being, the GM of Atlanta. They didn't tell him all the job responsibilities, Kevin, until he got there. Like, yeah, man, Flowery Branch, nice city, growing city, a team, Matty Ice. We have no money. I went to the safe. There's nothing in the safe. Yeah, because there's no money in it. But I just think that, I do think the draft will start at pick number 4. If it goes the way I think it's going to go 1, 2, and 3. But the thing is, if you Atlanta, you're going to have your pick of the best quarterbacks left and pick of every skill position left. We'll see what happens, though.
Yeah, you can't go clipping coupons in the draft to go make it work for you. But no, we got plenty to get to here on 3 and Out. Stick with us all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network, streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com, also live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Love to hear from you on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. Good to have you here on 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop here with you on this Tuesday. So much to get to here on the show. And we appreciate Cole Kubelik joining us last segment. We'll also hear from John Shipley of the Jaguar Report. We'll get the very latest with what the Jags are going to do on Thursday. We know what they're going to do with the first pick. They also have another pick in the first round. So we'll get the very latest on that. Also, Rich Stiles, host of the Back Nine Boys Golf Show. Very interesting showdown taking place tomorrow between Rich and our own Christian Gokel. We'll talk about that coming up with Rich in hour number 2. And certainly a lot of draft talk with the Falcons. Terry Fontenot has been said, saying, look, hey, we're in a difficult spot. Cap-wise, when teams call, we're going to listen because, hey, we can free it up and go from there. So we'll get to that coming up in just a little bit. But the Braves, a winner last night, Ben, they get up over to the Cubs. I guess it's what everybody's talking about. You know, Dansby pregame out there burning the sage, I guess, to get rid of all the bad vibes. And, if it works, I guess you keep doing it, right? I mean, just go out there and burn some more sage before the game.
Whatever it takes. I mean, and the whole thing about this, Kevin, I mean, I know when it comes to players, most of the time when we have rituals, it's behind the scenes, and the only person to understand about our weirdness is our teammates, because this is what they do to get up. At least Dansby did it for the world to see. Look, if the world can see that we're not hitting the baseball, if the world can see that our starting pitching hasn't been there, if the world can see that our, bullpen hasn't been there, whatever it takes, Dansby. But this is the problem. I guess it worked because they won, so do he still got to keep it up? I mean, can he afford the sage? Yes. Can he get it sponsored? Who knows? But I just think that he did whatever he had to do. I mean, he kind of took us back, to one of the best movies ever, Major League. They had all kind of rituals, Kevin, in Major League. And when you start talking about them winning and, rabbit's foots and all this crazy stuff. But Dansby, listen, it worked. I didn't know Dansby was that weird, but that's what it takes to get the win. Because once again, it got ugly. Nobody is with the dramatics more than these Braves. Thank God we got Freddie Freeman. I don't know if Freddie used the sage or not, but if he did, use it again. But if not, we'll take the win, Kevin. We did not have to make it as interesting as we did, though.
Yeah, no, baseball players are weird, period. I mean, they all have the special things where it's like, hey, if I'm on a hit streak, I'm going to keep doing the same, whatever it is that I'm doing to keep it going. If I'm in a slump, you got to do something different to make it break. Apparently the sage works. I mean, Dansby Swanson hit a homer last night. So, I mean, I guess if he's got it, go burn it, right? And just go light it up in the middle of Truist Park if it makes a difference. But if you were playing, Ben, I mean, football guys, I know it's once a week versus, baseball, it's like every day you can really feel that slump where it's like, man, it's been 4 days. I haven't got a hit. I haven't got on base. Were there guys in the locker rooms you've been in that had like rituals? Like, man, I had 10 catches last game and 10 catches a game before that. I am doing whatever to make sure it keeps going.
Yeah, I mean, guys definitely did the whole eat the same thing, before a game. The biggest ritual was guys picked a certain restaurant to eat at, like on a Thursday afternoon or a Friday after practice. They would pick a certain restaurant, sit in the same spot, order the same things. Now, the weirdest one ever, like this is ever. So Robert Gallery, who was, I think, the third pick in the draft in 2004, I got to play with him when I was in Oakland. And, offensive lineman from Iowa, big time player. He would like work himself up so much to where like he's just throwing up like just over and over and over again. I'm thinking, like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like why are you doing that? And they go, dude, he does this every game. And I'm like, so look, they said if he doesn't do this, he doesn't play well. So let me get this. He has to work. I mean, mind you, he's in it's like he's in a sauna, but he's sitting out with everybody else with a towel. And I'm like, dude, like, you weird. But now, obviously, I wanted to call him weird, but I was a new guy on the team. I'm trying to, get welcome to the team. But I'm like, dude, number one, that's nasty. Number two, like, it's not that serious, man. And I think, and Kevin, mind you, I've heard of guys. Oh, now this is crazy. Well, that's not crazy, but Steve McNair, may he rest in peace. Steve McNair had to take a nap before the game. Like, he had to do it. Like, I mean, we'll come to the stadium. They'll find him a place in the stadium for the home away that's really, really dark. They would give him a pillow. They would give him a blanket, and he would go take a nap. And I'm like, what in the world? But I'm telling you, one time he was late and he couldn't take a nap, and he got hurt. I'm telling you, like, hey, Maggie, come in. Somebody, where's his pillow? Where's his blanket? Go do. Hey, like I said, man, we got some weird people out there. Not saying that was weird for Mac, but Robert Gallery, you nasty. I'm sitting there like, how do I get ready for the game when this guy and he's throwing up over and over and over, and then it's like, so let's go Raiders, and then he'll jump up like 1, 2, 3 Raiders and run out, and I'm like, what is wrong with us, man? Like I know guys that won't wear new cleats on game day. They're gonna wear the cleats they've been wearing, or they wear they old high school t-shirt underneath. I mean, I don't think that stuff has any bearing on the game. But as soon as we lose, they'll say, "See, I watched this shirt. I shouldn't have watched this shirt." I said, "No, you should have made the kick. That's what you should have done." But yeah, I appreciate Dansby at least showing the world that pro athletes, no matter what the sport is, we all have these weird, like rituals that really have no bearing on the game, but it's all psychological, Kevin. So they won, so you got to do it again.
It works if you think it does, right? That's
all. Well, what did the guy say? What did the guy say on Anchorman? 60% of the time, it works every time.
That's correct. Every time. So the Braves back at it a little bit later tonight. Ian Anderson looking for win number 2. And for whatever reason, Ben, the Braves have played pretty well against the Cubs. Got 8 runs again last night. So this is maybe a bounce back series for Atlanta. And I know I wish BJ was on the show today, because we talked, obviously all week about, is it time to worry? Is it time to panic? Is it time to do all this kind of stuff? I heard him talking, I believe, in the pregame show last night. There are like 19 of the 30 teams going into last night. 19 of the 30. So over half the league was under 500 at this point. I mean, that's a lot of struggling, going on around the league. That's certainly probably going to turn. I think of the 5 teams in the National League East, and we know how good the East is projected to be, 4 of the 5 teams in the National League East were under 500 going into last night. So this is not a situation. It'd be one thing. It's like, hey, struggling a little bit under 500, and the Dodgers are out there, in the stratosphere. But everybody is kind of off to a rocky start for the most part, it seems like, around baseball. And that to me is why you don't panic, because nobody is pulling away from anybody, and you're still within striking distance.
Absolutely. It's going to be peaks and valleys. And the thing is, I mean, this is why BJ couldn't have been a coach, because BJ stresses so much. It's like, look, man, I mean, okay, we were 9-12, and then we won last night. It was 100 and you still got 100 and something games to go. Like, until we start getting to the halfway point, you can calm down. But that's just how BJ is. I said, BJ, I'm telling you, the fact that you're a stats guy and these number correction games and all this, no, it's early. And because this is the thing, what if the Braves had only lost 2 or 3 games? Then you're going to think, hey, man, there's no way they can keep this pace up. It's baseball. It's a marathon. It's like you say, Kevin, make sure you're still in it, before the All-Star game. For the All-Star, then make sure you put yourself in a position after the All-Star game, so for that home stretch to kind of like not like I lose all your momentum, because I mean, just like what BJ said, oh man, Ron Lecount Jr. he's in the home run derby. Yeah, how did that play out? It's fine, people. The Braves are, to me, in one of the hardest divisions, if not the hardest division in baseball. Everybody struggles. Like, think about it. The Braves have played well against the Cubs and struggle against the Marlins. Why? Because it happens. Because we forgot that the Marlins made the playoffs last year, because we so focused on the Braves. But yeah, I think you're gonna have peaks and valleys. I'm really interested to see how Ian Anderson is gonna fare tonight. He seems to do well in these situations. And who knows? We were talking about Max Fried coming back. Soroka gonna be back soon. Could Ian Anderson be that spark for this starting lineup that could hopefully give us some momentum moving forward?
Absolutely. Hey, speaking of peaks and valleys, I think that's what we could be looking at with the Falcons draft coming up Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We'll come back. We'll talk about what in the world they're going to do there at number 4. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along here on 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you are with us on this Tuesday. Draft coming up on Thursday. Falcons sit at number 4 in the draft. As been mentioned earlier in the show, Terry Fontenot saying on Fox 5, we're in a difficult cap situation. That's just the circumstance we're in. When teams call about any player, we have to listen. So I think that's kind of explains a lot about what the Falcons are looking at here with their draft coming up. That, we don't have a lot of money. We're going to have to make some moves work and going to have to make some things happen in the draft and maybe trade a few players, i.e. Julio Jones, to make it all work out.
Yeah, I mean, Terry Fontenot, he definitely going to have to get creative in how they try to go about to get things done because, I mean, people be saying, okay, if you don't have any money, how are you going to play these rookies? Exactly. Like, how are we going to pay the guys that aren't even Falcons yet, on top of the fact that we got to field every call? Meaning it used to be a time to where, hey man, I'm not, you hit it. We're not trading Julio. We're not trading Matty Ice. Nope. Everybody's on the table. Like everybody. Because I know we getting caught up in Julio. I know we get caught up in Matty Ice. But think about this though, Kevin. I mean, Grady Jarrett, he got a nice size contract. Deion Jones, he got a nice size contract. We just getting caught up in these quote staples that's been there. Well, I mean, you're going to have to move some things around just to be able to keep some of the guys you got, get the guys you bring in here, because the last thing is you're going to have whatever that 4th overall pick. Hey, listen, you're going to have to take a team discount. I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what a team discount is if I just got here. So, yeah, for Terry Fontenot, good luck, because this is what any GM was going to be inheriting. Because, Kevin, think about it. You're trying to be able to, reload, and I think the only way you're going to be able to do it is potentially trading Julio Jones, which can't even really be final till June 1st because of the salary cap hit.
Yeah. And again, what do you think happens then at 4 if Terry Fontenot's saying all that? Do you go quarterback and say, look, you got to pay quarterback money, obviously at number 4. You got to play number 4 money anyway, but quarterback's certainly going to demand a lot. And at least for right now, the expectation is they're not going to play, at least in year 1, right? Maybe year 2, if you keep that right. So if you're in, salary cap dilemmas, does that push you towards a positional player rather than a quarterback at number 4, or try to trade out to give yourself the excuse why you didn't take a quarterback there at number 4 to try to, free up money and put money, invest money, however you want to look at it, into guys that can play right now?
I think the number 4, I think I stay in number 4 because, like you said, Kevin, I mean, it's slotted. Like whatever the number 4 pick got a year before, this number 4, this pick right here going to get a little bit more the number 4 pick last year. And the Falcons fan base needs something to feel good about. If you trade out of number 4 and you get a player, and then people go, you got AJ Terrell last year. I mean, I don't remember what AJ Terrell did last year, and that's not his fault. I think you stay at 4 and you get a quarterback, Kevin, just for perception reasons. Like, okay, here's the guy that's going to be the guy moving forward, even if we got Matty Ice, because the thing is, we know who the top guys are at every position not named quarterback. Fans don't know that stuff. You move down to number 10 or 11 and you getting a pass rusher that had a 2nd round grade, they're going to be like, what are the Falcons doing again? Stay at 4, get a quarterback that you want, let them learn behind Matty Ice, try to build throughout the rest of the draft. I mean, because the Falcons have been signing players. It's just no one knows who they are. It's like they have been signing guys, and they all been developmental. So I think you do stay at 4, because if we trade out of number 4 to get a bunch of picks that, I mean, they might be able to help us, because we talking about the quarterback not playing. Some of these rookies, they're going to have to go out there and make a name for themselves as well. So let's not get too comfortable with whoever they getting out at number 4, because like I said, out of 250-something guys that are going to get drafted, maybe 125 going to be on NFL rosters this year. So everybody get drafted ain't going to make the team. I think you stay at 4, give the fan base something to look forward to, even if that is a quarterback or another skill position player, because they're going to have to get creative. Terry Fontenot, man, show us why you came up from New Orleans. You built something over there. Now you got to build it at this Mercedes-Benz Stadium, only this time is in Atlanta.
Yeah, and again, obviously at 4, people think, hey, Justin Fields. We talked about a little bit with Cole Kubelik. Chris Sims has him falling to 32 in his mock draft. Bucky Brooks mock draft has him down at 27. A lot of folks have him sliding down the first round. What do you see there with Justin Fields? And is that all, potential teams leaking smoke screens about Justin Fields sliding because maybe somebody feels they can jump up and get him at 10 if everybody kind of downplays their interest in him?
Yeah, it's well, it kind of goes with the week of the draft, Kevin. I mean, yesterday, Kyle Shanahan, San Francisco, they was up. They got 5 guys that they looking at, right? Today, Terry Fontenot, he just happened to be getting interviewed last night when we're talking about the different things Atlanta needs. I hope that it's I hope it's just, a bunch of smoke when it comes to Justin Fields, because I don't understand certain things. Like, I mean, I respect when people say, well, listen, at Ohio State, they didn't ask him to do that much. Well, he was a B-ball. So let me get it straight. A guy that wasn't asked to do that much went to the national championship. And I play within the system that I'm given. So I'm a baller at the place I'm at who didn't be told what he wasn't asked to do that much. Okay. But he more than superseded expectations because he was in the national championship. He beat Trevor Lawrence, the number 1 overall pick, and lost to Mac Jones, the potential number 3 pick. And I'm the number 32 pick. I'm just saying Zach Wilson's going to go to number 2. They added Coastal Carolina. And he lost to them. Well, I'm just saying, I hope it's much to do about nothing at the end of the day, Kevin, because like I said, Lamar Jackson, they moved back up he was the 32nd pick. He's already a regular season MVP. I'm just saying his resume looks better than most of the guys that went in front of him, not named Patrick Mahomes. So I just think that it's the draft, though, Kevin. And the thing is,
sometimes we look at drafts, and I've never quite understood this. I mean, I guess I know it is a prestige thing, where it's like, well, I was a top 5 pick. Well, I think sometimes it works out better if you just go to the right place. I mean, Aaron Rodgers could have been mad as all get up. Man, look at all the numbers I put up. I fell all the way down to Green Bay. Well, Green Bay happened to be a great place for him to go. And you can talk about, well, I was disrespected. No, maybe that's just the best place you fit. And they happened to pick you there later in the first round. So I think Justin Fields, if it's not Atlanta at 4 and he goes somewhere else, I don't know that we should just look at it and go, man, he like, I think you say this a lot. He fell, he's disrespected. No, maybe he went to the team that is going to be the best fit for him. I think we see guys go the other way, reach. We played Draft Jeopardy yesterday. Jake Locker, second quarterback off the board. Okay, he was a top 10 pick. That's about all you can say because he didn't play. I think that Lamar Jackson, a great example of that. Aaron Rodgers, a great example of that, where they weren't necessarily the top 1 or 2 quarterbacks. They didn't go in the top 10, and you could say, well, they got slighted. Well, they ended up in a pretty darn good situation for themselves. And, I think outside of, Baltimore, I mean, could you imagine Lamar Jackson maybe playing with Kansas City? But I think it worked out. Like Lamar Jackson's in a good situation for him. And whether he went 26th or 6th in the draft, it seems to have worked out just fine for him.
Absolutely. And the thing is, too, Lamar Jackson is going to be one of the best, stories when you talk about guys going to the right spot. And then we control the narrative until a player reshapes it. Everybody thought, Lamar Jackson should play another position. Well, I always said he was athletic. No, Lamar Jackson has a regular season MVP. You know who doesn't have a regular season MVP? Drew Brees. Drew Brees never won a regular season MVP. Now, I'm not saying that Lamar Jackson's going to be better than Drew Brees. I'm just saying, Phillip Rivers never won a regular season MVP. Eli Manning never won a regular season MVP. Ben Roethlisberger. Most guys in the league will not win a regular season MVP. Josh Allen, the smidgen under 6'5", is a MVP candidate in Buffalo. Josh Rosen been on 3 teams in 3 years. Top 10 pick. So people get caught up in, because there used to be a time, Kevin, being a first round pick saved you. They don't. You will get cut after 1 year. Ask Josh Rosen. So I just think that, yes, I try to stay away from it. He slid to what? He was supposed to go number 1. He went number 4. He slid? No, he's a first round pick, meaning Justin Fields is going to be in line to be a starter from day 1. Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, any one of those quarterbacks going to the top 2 rounds is going to be looked upon to be a starter sooner rather than later. The one that will have the most success will be the one that deferred their starts. When the ones that don't come out and start from the jump don't have a better shot at being better. I mean, being good quarterbacks, because Peyton Manning is the exception to the rule. But look at all the great quarterbacks that won Super Bowl. Ben Roethlisberger didn't start. Patrick Mahomes didn't start. Aaron Rodgers didn't play for 3 years. And then and you see what happens. So, Kevin, I mean, long-term success could be deferred success or delayed success when you talk about the quarterback position, because everybody think I want to leave college and go out and start. Well, you don't want to play quarterback and do that, because that means you're going to get hit a lot. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, Justin Fields started out of Georgia, ended up at Ohio State. How did that work out? So he's used to being looked over, and the teams that look over him, they tend to be watching him do big things from the sideline while he's out there under the bright lights.
Certainly. And again, I'm not saying the Falcons are going to take him or not. I think somebody's going to get him a nice quarterback wherever he goes in the draft. And again, Ben, just reading between the tea leaves for me, Terry Fontenot and what he's saying, I just feel like the Falcons are not going to take a quarterback there. I mean, I know they want to, but I feel like given everything he said about, hey, we feel like we can win versus we don't have any money. I have trade guys. That doesn't sound like a team that wants to go out and get a quarterback that's going to sit. I mean, that sounds like a team that wants to go out and get players, multiple players to come in and help you play. I think the Falcons are going to have multiple lines open on Thursday night for that number 4 pick, and wouldn't be surprised if they trade back, or if they don't, take a positional player. And again, I could be wrong. I got a gut feeling that they're not going quarterback at number 4.
And you're probably right, Kevin, because the whole thing about it is, I mean, we do this every year, right? It's going to be 2022. We're going to talk about Sam Howell and the cast of characters, Spencer Rattler and those guys. So the quarterbacks are going to be the headliners, and it's going to be a can't miss prospect the year after this and the year after that. So if you are Atlanta and Matty Ice is your guy for at least the next 2 years, you go like offensive line, or you go tight end, or you go receiver, because I think now, Kevin, because it's out there that Julio Jones might be on the trading block, you might want to try to replace his production. And if you're going to do it in the draft, add you a tight end or add you a receiver, even try to go trade for a guy with similar, not the same, but similar, as far as like characteristics of what Julio brings to the table, because Terry Fontenot is in a position where he goes, look, man, I know we go quarterback crazy, right? But we have a quarterback. He's pretty freaking good. Why don't we give him some help? And we ain't even talked about the defense. They need everything. They went to the store. What y'all need? I need everything in the store. What? Yep. Paper, plastic, whatever. Listen, however you put it in the bag, we'll take it. So yeah, but that's what makes the NFL draft so intriguing, Kevin. And we think we know, but we are talking about Atlanta sports teams. I mean, pros teams, which means if anybody can mess this up, which I hope they don't, it could be Atlanta. So I'm just saying, Terry Fontenot, you new here. You haven't been, affected by, how Atlanta sports, pro teams do. But yeah, Kevin, I think when it's all said and done, it's not going to be a quarterback, because you need every player you draft to be impact players this year for the Falcons.
Yeah, certainly. And again, we'll continue to look at what the Falcons pre-draft talk is over the next 2 days before they make that selection or trade out at number 4 on Thursday. We've got more to come, 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here on this Tuesday. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop. Glad you were with us all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Also live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can check us out there. If you miss any portion of the show, you can catch the podcasted version on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel. Archives the show each and every day here as well. Coming up next hour, we'll take three. Also, Rich Stiles, host of the Back Nine Boys Golf Show, will join us. He and our own Christian Gokelbin set for a showdown on the links tomorrow. We'll talk with Rich about that. And this is settle the Masters, pool that we had, where we all picked a handful of golfers. Well, Rich and Christian tied, and since then, smack talk has gotten out of control between those two, and I'm interested to see how it's going to go down tomorrow. We'll talk to Rich about that coming up in about a half hour.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, Christian been downplaying. It hasn't really been saying that much.
Has he been downplaying?
Let me say this. Hasn't been saying that much to me. I'm pretty sure this is when you know that you're looking forward to something. When all you answer people is something about like the tournament. Christian, man, what you want to eat? I'm going to beat him tomorrow. I'm just telling you that right now. No, dude, where you want to eat at? Forget what I'm going to eat. I'm telling you, he's not going to beat me. Christian's not going to let Rich beat him because, number one, I mean, you think it's trash talking now. I mean, forget, Rich, I'm just saying, Christian's going to look, I'm going to see who's going to look the best. I mean, Christian, working out, peak condition. I mean, the slack's going to be a little snug. We know that. Going to be a little tight around the hammies. The quad's going to be being shown off. But the thing is, Rich is overconfident. Yeah, Rich plays golf more than the average person. I get it. But Christian, like, look, dude, this is for bragging rights. And I'm a different dude when it's the bragging rights are on the line. I'm looking forward to it, Kevin. And I'm just looking forward to seeing the final result and why it didn't go the other guy's way. It's going to be everything but the golf game. It's going to be the weather. It's going to be the course. It's going to be distractions. I'm just looking forward to it.
Hey, I'll say right now, my money is on Rich.
Listen,
I think Rich is giving the smack talk as good as he's getting from Christian. I just feel I'm leaning towards Rich in this matchup. I know Christian feels bad. He's like, hey, why are you not in my corner? I'm like, hey, I'm going with who I think is going to get it done. Rich, man, I'm telling you.
Isn't that incredible? Christian goes, wait a minute, what? You went against me? Like it's like you in Vegas going, yeah, give me a hundred on Styles, please. What?
I'm a Judas on the show because I went against Christian. But no, I'm looking forward to see what happens because I feel like if Rich does win, it'll be awfully quiet around here tomorrow afternoon around the office.
Yeah, I mean, but like I said, Kevin, sometimes, it's like a kid growing up, right? It's time to eat. Hey, there ain't enough food. Oh, okay. And then they put all the food on, you can't eat it all. Oh, okay. Yeah, your mouth is bigger than your stomach. Okay. Sometimes you get yourself in trouble. But Christian is my swing coach. He definitely showed me how to go out there and make it happen. But I just know how competitive Christian is. And golf is Christian sport. And this is the thing. We, usually if it was male versus female, it'd be battle of the sexes. This is battle of the generations here, people. That's what this comes down to. Rich is representing for his generation, and Christian, hey, y'all, them 90s babies, y'all reputation is on the line.
Hey, I feel like if Christian wins, we'll never hear the end of it. Like he'll come on second down, he'll come on our show and start, hey, laying it down. Now, if it goes the other way, I suspect it'll be very, very quiet afternoon after Rich, humbles him a little bit out there on the golf course. I'm just saying. We'll talk to Rich. We'll get his pregame thoughts. What do you got, Cody?
I picked against him, and I co-host a show with him.
It's gonna be a long afternoon.
It's gonna be a long hour.
No. We might want to enjoy this interview with Rich. Because if Rich wins, this is going to be his last interview. He's not coming on the show no more. Chris is like, nah, man. Rich said, he's trying to piss.
I don't know what happened. Can't come on the show again. Tuesdays used to be all about Rich Stiles with Rich Stiles. No more, sir. If he gets beat tomorrow, I'm very intrigued as to how this turns out tomorrow, and we'll talk about it for sure on the show. We'll talk about it with Rich. Kind of get the pregame plan going in tomorrow, how he's feeling, and what it's going to take to put Christian in his place there on the golf course. We got more to come here on 3 and Out on this Tuesday. We'll come back. We'll take 3. Rich Stiles will join us. Also, John Shipley next hour from the Jaguar Report. We'll look at the Jags. What are they going to do on Thursday night after Trevor Lawrence is off the board, obviously? They've still got another first-round pick. And what does John think about Urban Meyer in his first draft there in Jacksonville? Hour 2 coming up next. Welcome back, 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop. Glad you're with us here. Hour number 2. We'll chat with Rich Stiles, host of the Back Nine Boys Golf Show. Also, John Shipley of the Jaguar Report will join us coming up in about 30 minutes. We'll look at Jacksonville and their first round. Also, Urban Meyer's first go-round with the draft. He had some comments about the draft versus recruiting on the Adam Schefter podcast. We'll talk to John Shipley about Urban's first draft here with Jacksonville, what the Jags are looking to do later in the first round on Thursday night as well. But first, it's 4 o'clock. Let's take 3 here on 3 and Out. And an all draft edition of 3 and Out as Christian Gokel slides in.
Well, I have a pre-take one question. How big
pre-take one?
How big do you have to be to just call your podcast your own name?
I mean,
like Ben, are you famous enough to do the Ben Troop podcast?
Why
I
not?
feel like you are.
I'm not famous enough, you know what I'm saying? But I'm weird enough. I mean, I'll do it. Because the thing is, if you call anything else, right? Because this how you know. This how you know I'm maybe famous enough to do it, but not famous enough. I'll say, yeah, it's called a Ben Troop podcast. They go, okay, who's that?
Let's see, like Troop Talk. Troop Talk is different.
Troop. Yeah, Troop Talk is going to be Christian. While I got you on real quick though, because I know you're going to be asking the question.
Yeah, Kevin.
You heard me and Kevin. You heard Kevin last segment. All that time you done put in with Kevin, and he's going with Rich. Come on,
Ben. As a famous lyricist once said, "These show hosts ain't loyal." They ain't loyal. No new friends.
No. Who's more
energy.
disappointing though?
No. Keep that same.
Who's more disappointing? No, I'm just saying. Kevin is one thing. Cody is another thing. Like, who are you more disappointing in Kevin or Cody?
It's fine. He loves doing the back nine boys more than second down. It's fine. It's fine. Might be looking for a new show host. Put that job out on LinkedIn. Yeah, we'll put that out there. But take one, guys. Kevin said it. It's an NFL draft. Take 3 today. We got some predictions I want from you guys. Take one. Which rookie quarterback will have the most touchdowns in year 1?
Oh, I mean, for me, it's gonna be Trevor Lawrence, only because out of all the rookie quarterbacks, he's gonna start game 1. I mean, he's gonna have more opportunities than I don't know if every other player. I mean, I know Zach Wilson got a shot to start, but I don't know who plays for the Jets. I don't know who plays for them. So for me, it's gonna be Trevor Lawrence because he's gonna start from day 1. I mean, TJ Shark and those guys, and I think you'll have a chance to go out there and really make some things happen. LaVisca Chenault. So yeah, for me, give me Trevor Lawrence.
I hate to be unoriginal, but yeah, Trevor Lawrence. I think he's going to get the most opportunities to go out there and do it. My number 2, if you believe the pre-draft hype, would probably be Mac Jones because Jimmy Garoppolo may not even be here on Sunday.
Kevin, none of us.
None of us could be here on Sunday.
Yeah.
If you talk to the 49ers head coach. So, no, I would say Mac Jones, if that's who they take, might have the second best opportunity because if Justin Fields goes to Atlanta, he's not playing. Trey Lance, where does he go after that point? I would say Trevor Lawrence is the logical choice to have the most touchdowns, like you said, with Zach Wilson going to the Jets. He may not make it through the whole season.
He might have the most touchdowns, but a few of them might go to the other team.
Exactly.
That is very true. Very true.
All right, take 2. Which rookie running back will finish the season with the most yards?
Oh, for me, I think it's going to be Najee Harris because the whole thing about it is Travis Etienne has shown that, number one, he does less. I mean, he does more with less as far as like his touches. Najee Harris is kind of like that old school back that gets better each quarter, but he's also showing that he can catch the ball out the backfield. I think he's going to be more of a feature back than Travis Etienne is going to be. Plus, I think he can take the pounding with how big he is. So for me, give me Najee Harris.
I will go with Travis Etienne because it seems to me that, and that's not a bad pick that you threw out there either with Najee Harris, seems to me that either one of these guys could go late first round or not at all till the second round, which means they might go to a team that really wants them to come in and run the football as opposed to, hey, we're getting best athlete available. I'm going to say it will be Travis Etienne. And again, I know Najee Harris dynamic. Travis Etienne's no slouch. in catching the ball out of the backfield.
Literally the ACC's all-time leading rusher.
So I would say Travis Etienne will be the rookie running back.
This is
yards, but in reality, if we really want to go full NFL on it, it'll probably be
like
somebody
Trey
drafted in the 6th round.
Yeah.
Up in a good spot.
No, I mean, this is what kills me about Travis Etienne, though. I know BJ rides on the same bandwagon with me. Is like we get Travis Etienne is no slouch. He's literally the ACC's all-time leading rusher.
Disrespectfully,
but I know, but it's just it's what you get going into this draft. I think no matter where he ends up, Travis Etienne probably immediately RB1 on that team. There's a few guys where I think he'd sit behind him, but they're probably not drafting him. So no matter where he ends up, Travis Etienne's going to be RB1. He's an every down back. You can throw the ball out of the backfield. He can truck you. Everybody thinks he's some slender running back. Dude's easily over 215 pounds. I think Travis Etienne is going to have the most yards next year. He probably, if we're looking at running backs, period, in this draft, is going to have the best career in the NFL. I think he's an Alvin Kamara-like running back.
Yes.
And my dream, Ben, if I can just be non-professional right now, it's Kyle Pitts at 4 and Travis Etienne falling to the Falcons in the 2nd round. Because if you go and you have Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Matt Ryan's your quarterback, add Hayden Hurst, Kyle Pitts as another weapon, and then your running back in the backfield is Travis Etienne, that's just sick nasty. That's just me dreaming, Ben.
No, Terry Fon, no, look, take it, listen. Make sure you're checking out 3 and out as well as 2nd down. I mean, we trying to give you the recipe. Go out there and get the best tight end we've seen in a while, like Kyle Pitts and Travis Etienne, a guy who, because of his personality, because he doesn't talk, people don't talk about him. But you put him on the field, he's Alvin Kamara. He's Alvin Kamara without the platinum grill and the nose ring. The young man is talented.
They asked Nick Chubb why he doesn't post more on social media and why you don't hear him talk more. You know what he said? You ever seen a Lamborghini commercial? He doesn't need to advertise. Travis Etienne doesn't need to advertise. Take three. Which rookie DB, notice I say DB, not corner, not safety, just defensive back, will finish with the most interceptions?
All right. I mean, I know Patrick Surtain is going to be the headliner, and Caleb Fairley and J.C. Horn. For me, I think Christian appreciate this. TCU safety, Trevor Mulrig. This dude is a heat-seeking missile. This kid, I mean, to me, he's going to be a guy that's going to be an impact player from the jump. I don't usually give the Horned Frogs, a lot of love, but Trevor Mulrig, he's going to be really, really good, really, really quickly, kind of like that Earl Thomas type ball hawking safety that has the nose for the football. So give me Trevor Mulrig, TCU safety.
I'll go J.C. Horn. I think obviously what he did in college will translate to the NFL. He'll go to a team where he's going to get a lot of chances to do it probably as well if he goes in the 1st round as expected. So I will say J.C. Horn for me. Although, I mean, those things are so hard to predict, right? I mean, because if you're good, in order to get that right, you need to be good, but you can't be too good. Like if you're like Patrick Peterson or Deion Sanders type good, they quit throwing at you and you don't get a chance to get any picks. So I'll say J.C. Horn, though. It's so hard to predict.
But I do think it's a transitive thing, right? Like, I know he's not on the team anymore, but KZ, when he came, was it San Diego State that he came out of?
Yes.
He was the college football's leader in interceptions coming out. So when the Falcons drafted him, I was like, that's a good pick. I mean, you take a flyer on that guy in the draft when there's something about you. And as soon as he came in, the ball just found its way to him. And so I feel like it's going to be one of those guys. I'm going to take J.C. Horn's teammate, a guy who's been on the show, Israel Mukuamu. He had 7 career seasons in 3 years at South Carolina. Last year in a shortened season, didn't play too much. He had 2. The year before that, though, he had 4, 3 famously off of Jake Fromm in the same game. Dude's a 6'3" corner. And like you said, Kevin, if you pair him up with another corner, you're going to have to throw at him. And literally a 50-50 ball is not a 50-50 ball with him because he's probably going to be taller than your receiver for the most part. So if I had to guess, give me Israel Mukuamu, and some team's going to get lucky and get him in the 3rd or 4th round.
Yeah.
That's take 3. We do it every day at this time. Again, Christian joining us here for the Take 3 segment. And I know we've talked Falcons earlier. What's your gut? I said my gut is the Falcons are going to trade out and they're not taking a quarterback. What is your gut for the Falcons at 4?
Are you talking to me?
Yes. Your name is Christian.
We have breaking news.
Okay, sorry.
We have breaking news. Rich Styles has to reschedule the match.
Oh
No, my goodness! All the hype and it's not happening tomorrow.
Breaking news: the match has been rescheduled.
What in the world?
Christian,
Well,
I mean, no, Christian, we
I'll
were talking.
let other
Dansby
people
Swanson brought out the stage.
Just know that it's been rescheduled.
No, Christian, Dansby Swanson brought out the sage, and obviously the Braves got the win. Are you going to wear the same thing when y'all for the rescheduled event that you were going to wear for the event tomorrow?
Ben, Rich Styles worries about the Rich Styles. I'm just grabbing the first polo I see in there, some khaki shorts, and my old beat up Adidas golf shoes. And I'm getting after it. I'm an everyman on the golf course. Rich Styles is the one who wears probably more, like his shoes probably cost more than my entire outfit. His shoes might cost more than my car. So it's like I'm not worried about what I look like, Ben. It's all about the play. All right.
So you're not. But how? But when you say the first polo, is it going to be Brooks Koepka type? Like blend to show off the guns?
Are polos that I have been like gifted or like picked up from different places I've been. Like I got a nice Frederica polo. I got a nice Sea Island polo. I've got some from the landings up in Savannah. Don't have a Masters polo. I think mine, I got it when I was too young. Kevin, a little bit beefier now. I don't think I can fit into a schmedium anymore. But
I bet you could if you tried.
Probably look more like a crop top if I'm being completely honest. But no, just whatever polo suit me. Ben, usually I go with like the navy blue. I think navy blue works out there. If it's going to be a hot day, you got to go with the lighter color.
As big a fan as you are of Tiger Woods, I'm surprised it's not red polo for the showdown with
Kevin,
with
as
Rich.
a pasty white guy, don't look great in a red polo. When your arms are pink and the shirt's red, it's not the same kind of feel to it.
I don't know if
you're
out there to close. I mean,
Kevin,
go out there and close.
I don't know.
Pump, red polo. Come on.
I don't know if you want to look at me, Kevin, but I don't have that same physique as Tiger Woods either. So,
Oh, come on. You work out a lot.
A lot, but I'm not Tiger Woods training with Navy SEALs, man.
Coming close to it.
I appreciate that, Kevin, but I don't think so. I think Tiger Woods would drop my butt like third period French if it came down to it. Even injured.
That's Christian Gokel joining us here. That is take 3. We'll come back. I guess we'll get into the reasons why. I mean, is it if you're scared, say you scared situation?
No, it's not.
It's not.
Rich has legitimate reasoning.
Okay, legitimate reason. Okay, well, we'll talk to him about that. We'll talk some golf with him as well. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, and glad to have you along here on this Tuesday. Glad you're making us part of your day. John Shipley, Jaguar Report, will join us coming up in just a little bit. But joining us here, host of the Back Nine Boys Golf Show, Rich Stiles, joins us. Rich, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks.
Rich, good to have you along here. I know we're going to reschedule till next week. Christian is looking forward to it, though, and he has been talking about this nonstop. So now you're going to make him sweat it out for another week here.
Yep, I know. I've been doing a little bit of practicing, and I've got a little bit of a hitch in my giddy up, and I'm just trying to work on a couple of things. And I just think it'd be better to postpone it 1 week. I'm hitting my drives, carrying the ball about 383, and that's feet, not yards. So I probably need to just reschedule for next week.
Listen, Rich, I told you not to get out there and try to do the Bryson swing, man. It's for a guy of your advanced age.
Oh,
wow.
It's
not healthy.
You're already attacking the age. Okay, Mr. CrossFit.
I would not even do that. I would not even do that. I'm all about throwing barbells around, but when I watch Bryson swing, it just doesn't seem healthy. And I know you're out there
age,
like,
oh my gosh, age is just a number. The ball does not know how old you are. It does not know if you do CrossFit.
But Rich, your hips know how old you are, and if you're trying to do the Bryson swing, you're gonna pop them out. And I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
Hey, I've had 62 protein shakes since last week.
Excellent.
Rich, you might want to go to a doctor immediately.
No. Rich, no. I mean, this is something I was talking about. Real quick, Rich. I mean, how do you? Is the trash talking gonna start out real, very, very safe, and become extremely disrespectful by the end?
Listen, Ben. The trash talking starts disrespectfully, and it stays disrespectful until the end.
Otherwise,
until the end, then we'll take our hats off and we'll shake. But Rich, I'm glad we do have an extra week here because now we can kind of figure it out. Is this going to be stroke play or match play? Which tees are we hitting from? We got to lay all this out.
I get to pick the tees, and they will not be the ladies, and they will not be all the way back.
So we're not playing from the tips. We're not playing golden tee.
No,
That's right.
We're not going to do that.
All right. And is it stroke play or match play? I like match play because, you can get out there and put up a snowman, but that only counts for that one hole.
Yeah, that's true. I'll do whatever you want.
Oh,
come on.
The confidence there.
I mean, we are playing like on your home course. So, you do have the distinct advantage out there.
Yeah, Rich, let me tell you this. He was sweating this earlier today. He was telling me, hey, I think we probably need to do match play. I was like, you scared to play straight up? I mean, is that
yes, Kevin, because I'm afraid I'm going to put an 11 on a scorecard and have to deal with that for the rest of the match.
I was going to say, okay, double bogey is the highest you could get, and all putts within 30 feet for me are good, and for you are not.
Are you good to agree to that?
No. I'm just saying.
Like a couple weeks back when Dustin Johnson just went ahead and picked up his ball, and he was like,
Yeah.
Put it out.
Yeah.
That's going to be Rich.
Hear you.
That's going to be Rich. Great.
How many golf balls do you think you're going to lose?
I would honestly, I would say on average, just depending on how my driver is, I lose 3 golf balls a round.
Okay.
It just depends. Like, if you just hook shank a driver and you don't hear it hit anything, you're like, that thing's gone. Like never coming back.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about, Rich?
I hear you. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
See, he knows, Cody.
I hear you.
I mean,
Yeah.
is there? I mean, Rich, is there going to be a mercy rule?
Match is on. It won't be like the Zurich match that the PGA Tour pros played. And I do have to say something. Last week, Ben asked me a question about the Player Impact Program, and I misunderstood the question. And I believe that he asked me how I felt about it. And I will tell you how I felt about it, how I feel about it, is I don't like the program. I think it is just a way to give the top players more money that they don't need, to alleviate having them go to that other Premier League that is backed by Saudi Arabia. And I don't think it's a good program. And I think the PGA Tour is in a panic in a way because Tiger's not going to be playing. and they want these top guys to stay on the tour.
I mean, so Rich, in your opinion, they continue to cater to the guys that are already, quote, the faces of golf, while not really highlighting the guys who need the money. That's more like towards like the bottom of the rankings.
Ben, you and I agree. I mean, you know, a guy like Webb Simpson, he's a household name. People know his name. They know he plays golf, but he doesn't do a lot of social media, so he's not even going to be in the equation. You know, guys are going to be in the equation, which it doesn't matter how they play, are going to be like Justin Thomas, are going to be like Ricky Fowler, you know, and Lee Westwood and those kind of guys. If Pauline would do a lot of social media, and that would be credited to Dustin Johnson, he might have a chance to win.
Rich, I did want to talk to you today, since we're not just going to trash talk back and forth for 15 minutes since the thing, since our match got rescheduled. But I do find it interesting that a lot of the names, right, that golf is traditionally carried by, that you think would be the names you immediately point to, i.e. a Rory McIlroy, they're not performing as well as they would need to be to keep carrying the sport. I think Rory McIlroy money earned right now is 41st in the world for this current season. And there's a lot of guys who I just don't think have the name recognition who are playing great golf. And it's a lot of younger guys, right? A guy like Victor Hovland is a younger guy. Hideki Matsuyama, people think he's just been around forever, but he's still in his late 20s that's carrying the sport. Whereas guys like Jordan Spieth are just so hit or miss right now. Justin Thomas hasn't won anything overly significant in a long time. How much longer do you think before we just start moving past the Jordan Spieths, the Justin Thomases, and guys like that, and to start accepting the Colin Morikawas, the Xander Schauffele's, the Hideki Matsuyamas are the face? Because for right now, they're the best golfers in the world.
Well, they are. I mean, they are playing much better than these other guys. I mean, Ricky Fowler hasn't won in several years. Jordan Spieth has won. I think Jordan is on the upswing. But you know, JT, he has a win, but you know, he hasn't been playing really, really good. Those other guys have been playing great. And here's the issue. The PGA Tour has probably come up with this program. This is opinion here. In order to reward the guys who are social media gurus because of this Premier League that has offered millions and millions and millions of dollars. So they've put together $40 million to reward these guys, and it doesn't reward anybody for good play. So some of the guys that you mentioned may not, they might, but probably not be included in that $40 million bonus.
Yeah, if you're taking, Kevin, if you're taking the 20 most followed guys on Instagram and putting them in a tournament, you're going to be missing 18 of the best golfers.
Well, I mean, but isn't that in any sport right now?
No.
I'm saying, but like in a lot of sports, your best players aren't necessarily the most prolific, social media guys. Not necessarily.
I don't know. If you go to basketball, I think.
Well, I mean, basketball may be a little bit different, but I mean,
football is a more of a team sport. But still, I mean, the most followed guys. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster has done it really well in football and doing it just like he was one of the first to really embrace like the TikTok fad and Fortnite and all of that. So he definitely has a younger audience, and he's a very good football player. I wouldn't put him up there as one of the best football players in the world. But again, what Rich is saying is you're rewarding guys for Instagram followers and not their actual play on the field. So it's
right.
It's tough to do that. And I get why the PGA is probably trying to do that. Like Rich said, it's coming down to money, and they can package out and sell then the views from the PGA because, like what he said about Ricky Fowler. Ricky Fowler has been a bad golfer the past few years. Bad. Like lower 50 golfer in the world, but he's probably still one of the 10 most recognizable golfers in the world because he wears the flat-billed Puma hats.
Right.
I understand. Rich, right, but I've long thought this was a golf problem just because, and why wouldn't you? I think you kind of fell in love with Tiger Woods, and the bar has been set for, hey, we need somebody that's going to go off and rattle off 4 out of 5 golf tournaments, and that's not going to happen. We need a guy that's going to win 3 majors. I mean, that's so ridiculously hard to do in a calendar year that, I think Tiger set the bar there. And even while Tiger Woods has been out multiple times with knee injuries and what have you, the storylines have always been, when's Tiger coming back? Or it's Tiger and Phil. And it seems like for nearly 2 decades, it's been Tiger and Phil, and you haven't really, you've tried, I guess, but you haven't really developed any other quote unquote stars of the sport. Everybody that's even come up is still living in the Tiger Woods shadow of like, yeah, you're good, but you're not Tiger Woods. And so I think golf has yet to find that next wave of guys who can come up and captivate the sport the way Tiger Woods did.
Well, I think those guys are coming up, but here's the problem. They all grew up idolizing Tiger Woods. They had posters of him up in their room. And now these guys are playing on the tour. These are the young guys, but they're not household names. There will not be another Tiger Woods. There will not be another Jack Nicklaus or Arnold Palmer. And, right now the PGA Tour is searching because the big name guys, as Christian said, they're not playing well. So they're missing cuts or they're way behind. They're not even in the hunt. They're not even getting TV time because they're not playing well.
Well, Rich, I wanted to ask you this too, just going off what Kevin said. It's like saying if you want another Tiger Woods, it's like saying you want another Michael Jordan. It's just
right.
It's not going to happen because that time's never going to match up.
But have they put the investment in to push another guy to be the face of the sport?
But I don't think it was inherently the PGA that pushed Tiger Woods. I think it was Nike that pushed Tiger Woods to make him the face of the sport. And you can say the same thing with Michael Jordan. Obviously, the championships are there, but a lot of guys have won 6 championships in basketball. It's the fact that players wear his shoes, right? That's what makes him the biggest player ever. And it's the stories about him. You have the stories about Tiger Woods. But I think where the PGA is maybe trying to go, but are doing it in a bad way, which doesn't shock anyone if you follow the PGA, is, Kevin, there are so many people out there who have millions upon millions of followers that you have no idea who they are.
Sure.
Like, do you know who Maddie Rogers is?
Exactly.
No.
Rich, do you know who Maddie Rogers is?
Who?
Maddie Rogers. Do you have any idea? No, she is one of the champion Olympic weightlifters for the U.S. national team, right? And you're like, Olympic weightlifting, nobody cares about that. If you go across her social media platform, she has over 2 million followers.
Okay, Christian, you also said something else. It was Nike, but it's also been, as far as the thing with Tiger Woods, as far as putting out there, it's also been the Golf Channel. It's also been TV. TV has made Tiger Woods even more than what he ever could be, besides the fact that he's won so much. But the Golf Channel, back in the mid-'90s, when Tiger Woods was coming up, the Golf Channel was almost going out of business because it needed more money because it didn't have what they wanted, which was advertisers. And when Tiger Woods came up, that's when they started making a lot of money. So I think besides Nike, I think also the Golf Channel and TV in general has also made Tiger Woods more of a household name than he ever could.
It's like trying to do a national NBA talk show without LeBron, right? Like these guys struggle so much when LeBron's hurt to find content. Sure. And the NBA's even said their ratings go way down when LeBron's not on TV. It's just, that's the effect that these guys have.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the NBA is a whole other story. I think the golf has got better athletes who are athletes, and they are more respectable while they're playing golf and when they're not playing golf, rather than talking about the NBA, the NFL, and all that other. That's a whole other subject.
Yeah. Rich, hey, we're up against it. We appreciate you coming on, and we look forward to the reschedule next week between you and Christian. Thanks so much.
Down, old man.
The match will be on. It'll be sponsored, and it'll be on cable, and the book will be coming out a week after the match.
Rich, we appreciate it. Thanks so much. Rich Stiles, host of the Back Nine Boys Golf Show, our guest here on 3 and Out. We'll come back. We're talking draft with John Shipley. Jaguar Report next here on 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Welcome back, 3 and Out here on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you're with us here on this Tuesday, a couple days out of the NFL draft. The Jags have the number 1 pick in the draft. We know where they're going there at number 1, but another number 1 pick there on Thursday night as well. Joining us from the Jaguar Report, John Shipley steps in here on 3 and Out. John, welcome. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic, guys. How you guys doing?
Hey, doing fantastic. Obviously, we know where the first pick is going, but what outside of that, what do you expect from an Urban Meyer run draft here with Jacksonville?
Yeah, absolutely. I truthfully do believe that General Manager Trent Baalke is going to have a sizable impact on the draft, just because this is Urban Meyer's first rodeo. He's never been in a war room before. He's never made a trade while on the clock before. So I really do think that they're going to lean on his experience and Baalke's past. He's made lots of trades. He made 22 draft day trades while general manager of the San Francisco 49ers. He frequently moved up in the first round. So I'm expecting the Jaguars to create some movement, potentially even moving up from number 25. But I think they'll attack the trenches and the secondary and ball carriers, and they will do their best to get some top athletes in Jacksonville, because the one thing their team is missing all across the board is speed.
And John, obviously, Urban Meyer having the number 1 pick in the draft is definitely make things easy when you got such a ascended talent like a guy like Trevor Lawrence. But how much is Urban Meyer going to have to lean on the guys in that war room with him to make sure that he's not, kind of bringing that college atmosphere? I mean, you're talking about players that's got to be impact players right now. College, he was the man, but he's a rookie of the guys he's drafting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I truly think the draft is going to be Meyer's biggest transition, because, he talked about it some with Adam Schefter on the Adam Schefter podcast the other day. But, in recruiting, he just lists the players that he likes and they try to go after them. Here, you can like 2 different players, but they have completely different values. And you have to weigh, okay, we like this player here, but is he more valuable than this, than this defensive lineman here, than this linebacker at this pick? So I think he's really going to have to lean on the experience there. I think the Jaguars are going to, be drafting with Meyer's vision in mind. I think he's going to be setting the criteria for what kind of players and people they want to bring in. But I really do think his first draft is going to be a draft where he leans on the experienced NFL personnel around him.
John Shipley, Jaguar Report, joining us here on 3 and Out. Now, obviously, everyone knows about the first pick. What about pick number 2 there in the first round? You get your quarterback. Where do you see the Jaguars going there with that second pick in the first round?
At this point, I'd be surprised that they didn't take a defensive lineman or an edge rusher. And the 2 guys that keep coming to my mind are Christian Barmore with Alabama and Carlos Basham of Wake Forest. Basham isn't a guy whose name you hear in the first round maybe a ton, but it really feels like the rumors all throughout the last couple of weeks, whenever draft insiders come out and say a guy could surprisingly go in the first, is Basham. And Basham just looks like the kind of edge rusher who can play in that Baltimore Ravens, Jacksonville Jaguars type scheme. He's big, he's athletic, he's long, he plays with an edge, and he's a guy who can play both outside and inside. And then Barmore is just hands down the best defensive lineman in the class. The Jaguars, they signed multiple starters along the defensive line of free agency, but they're still looking for a true difference maker, and they don't have that currently. And Barmore, he's a bit boom or bust, but he at least has the ceiling to be a difference maker inside.
And Jen, obviously, I saw that where Urban Meyer was praising, Josh Allen and a guy that he could definitely build a defensive round. You talk about a guy like Christian Barmore, who I think is boom or bust. But when you look at that Alabama defensive line tradition, I think he definitely fits the mold. But Clavon Chason, a guy they got, in the first round, just a year removed from his rookie year, how much is whoever they draft, they're going to have to pair well with him, because he's going to have to be a key contributor this year?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think whoever they draft is going to have to mesh really well with Chason's skills. Chason, he's an immensely athletic player. He thrives when he's standing up and is able to attack blockers from different alignments. So I really think the best way for the Jaguars to maximize his potential is actually by adding another edge rusher. That way you can have that edge rusher and Josh Allen flying off the edge on third down, and you can move Chason around and, use him and his quickness to put interior offensive linemen at disadvantages. His lone sack last year came on an inside stunt where he just, he was too long and too quick for the guard to really corral him before he got to Ryan Tannehill. So I think he's going to play a big role, and I think the Jaguars would honestly be doing him a favor by adding another player to that position.
John Shipley joining us, Jaguar Report. Looking throughout the remainder of the draft, where does the focus lie? Is it getting Trevor Lawrence protection? Is it giving him weapons? Is it just making sure, hey, if the offense is a work in progress, we're going to be stout defensively. Where do you think the Urban Meyer focus is for the totality of the draft?
Yeah, I think he's going to attempt to get Lawrence some more weapons. I think they want to add a tight end, a pass-catching running back, and a slot receiver, at least at some point during the draft, no matter how high. But other than that, I think they'd want to add playmakers on defense. They're a team who not only are they completely overhauling their defensive scheme, but they're overhauling their defensive depth chart. They have lots of players who don't really fit the new scheme and lots of players who didn't impress in their snaps last year. So they just need to find more players who can help bring up that side of the ball because, despite the defense being the Jaguars' identity several years ago, they had one of the worst pass defenses in recent memory last season, and they don't currently have the depth chart to enter a season today and feel confident that it's fixed.
And John, I mean, when you talk about this draft, which is going to be very, very important when you look at this Jaguars team, a lot of these guys are going to have to come in and contribute right away. If with the free agents that they picked up, with the guys they're going to get in the draft, how soon can this Jaguars team be contending for an AFC South crown?
I think that they'll at least be competitive early on because there are so many question marks with the rest of this division. The Titans have lost a ton of pieces on offense between Corey Davis, Jonnu Smith, and Arthur Smith. The Colts, it's questionable if going from even an elder Phillip Rivers in his final year to Carson Wentz is an upgrade or a step back. And then obviously Houston is completely tearing down their roster at a rate that, we haven't really seen before. So I think the Jaguars will compete in the division this year. I'm not sure that they're going to be a mature enough team to overtake the Colts or the Titans, but I'd imagine 2022 is when the Jaguars, really start to swing for the fences and really go for it.
When you say compete, what's a reasonable expectation on the phrase compete?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that a record that would make sense for them is somewhere in that 7-10, 8-9 mark. I think they're going to have too much talent on offense with Lawrence and their pass catching weapons to not at least be able to put up some points, and they have a strong coaching staff. I do think there's going to be, some times of transition, especially early on due to the new scheme on defense and an entire new coaching staff and a rookie quarterback. But I think by the second half of the season, they'll be clicking and at least hovering around that 500 mark.
And John, I mean, with a guy like Trevor Lawrence, obviously he's going to be the number one overall pick. I mean, he's already box office. I mean, every time you see him on social media, he signed another endorsement deal. He's already proven that he's going to be ready to be one of the faces of the NFL here real soon. How crazy is it going to be to have that guy, finally in Jacksonville, and how impatient are these fans to be able to finally get him in that Jaguars uniform and to see what he can do?
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a sigh of relief for a lot of fans. Trevor has been the obvious pick since December, since even before Meyer was hired. But I think for Jaguars fans, it likely won't feel real until, they hear Roger Goodell, actually say his name. And I've only covered the Jaguars for 3 seasons, but just some of the quarterbacks and some of the passing performances I've seen have been astonishing, just astonishing in terms of how bad they've been. And Jaguar fans have been putting up with that for decades. So I'd imagine, once that card is turned in and Lawrence puts on the teal jersey, that there'll be a lot of happy faces in Jacksonville.
And John, obviously you're the number one overall pick. There's expectations, but Jacksonville's picking, as you said, number one for a reason. What are the reasonable expectations? Year one, rookie quarterback coming in, taking over a team that was, modest at best on offense a season ago.
Yeah, I think for any regular rookie quarterback, entering the situation that Lawrence is going to be entering, the expectations would probably be modest, just considering they went 1-15 last year. They have a rookie head coach and they have questions up and down the roster, but Lawrence isn't really, a normal quarterback prospect. He's been proclaimed to be this top quarterback prospect for so long that the expectation actually is for him to, outdo rookie expectations. The expectation, at least in my eyes, is for him to step in there and be one of the, 18 to 20 best starting quarterbacks in the league, at least, probably halfway through his rookie season. That comes with the territory of being the number one pick and, being labeled as generational. And that might be unfair to him, but those expectations have been set for a reason.
And John, expectations aside, who's under more pressure there, quote, rookie season, Urban Meyer or Trevor Lawrence?
I think Urban Meyer does, strictly because I think Lawrence, is obviously somebody who's going to be seen as, he has the next decade or so to succeed in the NFL, whereas Meyer, he has to prove now that he belongs. Lawrence doesn't have many doubters, but Meyer, certainly at the NFL level, Meyer has countless, detractors and people curious about his fit. So I'd say there's more pressure on Meyer to prove that he can translate from college to the NFL than there is on Lawrence.
John Shipley, Jaguar Report, our guest here on 3 and Out. John, really appreciate it. Thanks much.
Hey, thank you guys, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your week.
Will do. Thank you so much. John Shipley joining us here with the Jaguar Report. And Ben, he said, look, more pressure on Urban Meyer. But I think sometimes you get number one picks and sometimes you get number one picks. Like, as you said, the expectation is Trevor Lawrence is here, and with him, he puts on the jersey. We won't see it on Thursday night, but there's a little cape on the back that says, I'm here to save the franchise. I mean, that's a lot of pressure on a young man coming into Jacksonville.
Yeah, but I mean, doesn't kind of fit with Trevor Lawrence. I mean, we've known him since he was 14 years old, Kevin. I mean, he was able to take quarterback into another level. At Clemson, when you talk about how he raised the status quo, even from a Deshaun Watson, even though I think Deshaun Watson is still a better player. But, I mean, Urban Meyer is going to put more pressure on a guy like Trevor Lawrence because the thing is, Urban Meyer is in the NFL, but he wanted the perfect scenario. I want to be in a city that I don't have to introduce myself to. Check, Jacksonville. I want to go to a division that I got a chance to dominate, AFC South. Check. And I want a generational talent. And he got it in Trevor Lawrence. Now, right now, everything is good. I mean, when you get drafted, you ain't played no games. Everybody toasting. Oh, man, what's up, Trevor? Yeah, we got pools in the stadium. Then they kick the ball off. Then you start realizing when you're the number one pick in the draft, that means you were the worst team in football a year ago. You do not go from that bad to even halfway decent with most of the guys on their team are 25 years old or less. So that's another thing, too. It's like, hey, man, who's the oldest player on your team? I don't know. I think you're like 26, 27. It's like that. It's a reason that veteran teams do better than young teams. Now, it's a young man's league, but the veterans run it because it takes time to really, get up to speed. And the one thing Trevor Lawrence is going to have to learn, Kevin, he's going to have to learn how to lose because he's going to do that, and he's never dealt with it. But he should be built for it. Man, like I said, every time I see him on social media, he just signed another endorsement deal. Yeah. I mean, the boy's making more money now. He gonna laugh at his football money, but hey, man, that's why he got the long hair for a reason.
What is that? Yeah, what is that? We've got more to come. 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Great to be here on this Tuesday. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you are with us all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Again, appreciate John Shipley joining us. Again, Jaguars ahead of the draft. Right now, they have the easiest job, at least for the first pick, right? They already know Trevor Lawrence. It's happening. Now they can focus on later in the first round. We'll talk more about that in the final hour, as well as what the Falcons are going to do it for. Still plenty of options there, according to Terry Fontenot, is what they could do there. We'll hear from Cole Kubelik talking about the draft and some of the prospects that are going to hear their names called on Thursday night. Of course, we'll look at the Braves and the Cubs. Game 2 of that 4-game series coming up later tonight. Ian Anderson and Trevor Williams, your pitching matchup. We'll have that for you. 6:05 pregame coverage here this evening. We'll come back. One more hour to go on this Tuesday. Stay with us. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. Streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com. Also live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as well. We're coming right back. Final hour of 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along here. Final hour of 3 and Out on this Tuesday, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you are with us here on the show. We'll hear from Cole Kubelik coming up in just a little bit. Also look at the Falcons and what they're looking at in the draft at pick number 4 as we all count it down towards the NFL draft. Also have the Braves coming up tonight, 6:05 pregame coverage there. Got a big win last night. Maybe it was the Sage after all, Ben, as we talked about. Hey, the Braves had to try a little something. See if they could break the bad luck. Dansby out there walking around the infield burning sage. Apparently it worked. I guess at least for one night they got the dub over the Cubs. We'll see if they do it again this evening.
Listen, Dansby, get out there and bring the sage again. I mean, the thing about it is, Kevin, number one, it shows that this team was desperate to get a win. I know it's still early, but this team is all about momentum. This team understands that when they bats are hot, they some of the best, if not the best, lineup in baseball. I mean, I just think that when you start talking about what this team has to offer moving forward, their best pitchers are still on the DL. I mean, when you look at the fact that you waiting on Max Fried to come back, Mike Soroka waiting on him to come back, but you waiting on the spark not named Ron Acuna Jr. I mean, Freddie Freed showed last night. Freddie Freed is the most clutch player, I think, for the Braves. He's not the best player anymore. I think that's still Ron Acuna Jr. But I think what happens is, Kevin, what happens when this team gets on the road? I mean, this team is one of those teams where they got 10 in a row in them anytime they want to, but they got to get on the road. These late game dramatics. Oh my God! I mean, a win is a win, Kevin. Like you say, the hardest outs are the last 3, but if Dansby Mansman comes out today and does the stage, I have no problem with it. I just think that what happens is this team has a lot of personality. Look, Marcell Ozuna got the whole Braves stadium, stirring it up. I mean, he got them doing it. I mean, you talk about Ron Acuna Jr. with the talent. Freddie Freeman, being the clutch player he is. Ozzie Albies can get hot. I mean, you talking about Austin Riley, Pablo Sandoval. You got names all over the place. I just think that as long as this Braves team is winning, I can deal with 8-7. As long as the Braves are the one with 8. I can't deal with, the Braves not scoring runs.
Yeah.
That's what I'm like. How does that happen? But the Braves seem to be, trying to get back to winning another series against a Cubs team that has its struggles as well. And I just think that hopefully tonight, they'll get that second win in this series. I mean, Ian Anderson. I mean, even though it was a shortened season last year, Kevin, very, very impressive what he did last year. And I think his first start ever was against the Yankees. Then I think his second was against the Red Sox. So it's not like he got welcomed in to open arms. I mean, they threw him to the Wolves, and he like, hey, man, I think I can handle it. Obviously, what he did in the postseason last year. But this Braves team, the reason why they're going to get more criticism, because they have a lot of talent. Now, that bullpen is the bullpen. And unfortunately, starters can't pitch all game. Sorry, Madison Bumgarner with the 7-game doubleheader. I mean, 7-inning doubleheader. But I just think that for me, I just want to see consistency, Kevin, across the board. Whether it's starting pitching, whether it's lineup, whether it's the bullpen, because thank God everybody's looked bad, so there ain't no more point. It's y'all. It was all of us. But they got a big win yesterday, and I'm happy it was Freddie Freed that helped seal the win. But I'm gonna need to start seeing 4 runs in the first inning. You think, oh, there it is, and then the rest of the game came, and it's like, well,
I think it's interesting because Ronald Acuna's kind of cooled off a little bit from his hot start. And again, that's not to say anything other than, look, that's baseball. But you're right. I think the onus falls on a good portion of the rest of the team to step up and do something here. And I think Freddie Freeman, Dansby Swanson did it. Marcell Ozuna has not gotten off to a great start. I think he has 0 hits against left-handed pitching so far here in 2021. So I think this is a team that just needs to settle in and kind of find themselves. And I think rough starts are one of those things that kind of, compile on themselves where, I think for baseball, it's such a long season, but you can sit there and go, man, I'm hitting 180 after 3 weeks of this. Like, this is bad. And you start pressing a little bit. I think football, you see it as well. Hey, guys, like, look, I've only got 50 yards receiving in 2 games. Now you start pressing, try to get out there and make something happen instead of just settling down and let the game come to you. And I think if the Braves do that, they're really going to take off because, again, this team is too talented to not produce offensively the way they've had on a lot of nights. And you see glimpses of it. You'd like to see a couple games in a row of just consistent offensive effort at the plate and not 8-1, 10, 1, 2, things like that. And again, I know sometimes that's dependent on the starting pitching, but we know this Braves team is better than it's going. And I think, again, you're looking for that one moment, that one spark to kind of push you forward. And we've seen it in a number of seasons in the past where it's one big game, one big moment of, hey, it's the 8th inning, boom, big time home run, gets everybody fired up, and that kind of is the spurt that sends you off into a big winning streak. Or I say winning streak in baseball relatively. You win, 8 of 12 or 9 of 13, something like that, and you really start to get it rolling in the right direction. I think that's all that's missing from this Braves team. It's just a little positive momentum. As you said, they got personality out the wazoo. And when you start seeing some of that disappear, I don't think it's necessarily because they wanted to. I think it's just because, hey, the whole team's riding that struggle bus, Ben. And it's hard for everybody to be upbeat when I'm going good. It's easy for me to go, hey, Ben, hey, we're good. Keep going. When 7 and 9 of you are riding it, it's hard for everybody to go out there and have a positive attitude when it's kind of roster wide at times like it has been with this Braves team.
Yeah, I do think that's what kind of sets the Braves team apart than any other ball club is the chemistry. And the thing is, yeah, I expect Freddie Free to be Freddie Free. He's going to hit the home run. He's going to try to round the bases, like that consummate professional. I expect Ron Lecount to do that little trot and Marcel. And the thing is, that's what be. Think about it, Kevin. It's like if we're a loose team and we start losing, all right, let's button it up. That's not going to make us play better. Ron Lecount, he already cut his dreads off. Come on, man. Let's have some fun because that's the healthy balance, right? Because we forget the old guys on the team are what? Freddie Free, Marcel, and Charlie Morton, everybody else, 22, 23. These guys are playing Fortnite after the game. Let's just call it what it is. I think that the personality shining through is what makes this team good. Because think about it, Kevin. If before the game, they're showing Marcel, they're showing Ron Lecount, they're showing Ozzie having fun. If those guys are sitting over there like not doing, I was like, that's not good, man. That's not good for the team. That's not good for them because everybody plays different. And I just think that this Braves team, look, they got 10 wins on the season. They 10 to 12. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah,
they're not playing good. So that's how good of a team they are. If they start playing well, I know BJ gonna still be Mr. That's just BJ being BJ. But I just think that, Kevin, I think that's what makes the team dangerous. We're not playing well and we're 10 and 12. Y'all not playing well? No. The only guys that have been consistent is Pablo Sandoval, Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah.
Freddie Free, Dansby Swanson got Sage and Ron Lecount. I just think that everybody is pressing. And that's the thing about sports. We don't need everybody pressing at the same time. Now, if you're in the bullpen, whatever y'all, sage, incense, Epsom salt, whatever y'all need to get it done. But I do think, Kevin, something you were saying, look, Braves win this series, they're 500. I know BJ if that's sports. We if it all the time. If this happened, if that wouldn't happen. But if this Braves team get on a roll, I think it's gonna make them eat because then it's gonna be a different hero every night, not named Acuna, not named Freddie Free. But they got to put some wins together because unfortunately, we all might be from Georgia and Florida, but at the end of the day, we all from the show me state. When it comes to sports, you got to show it because we got to see it, and hopefully, we'll get that second dub tonight.
Oh, certainly. We'll have it for you coming up 6:05 with pregame coverage tonight. First pitch around 7:20 this evening. Game 2, Ian Anderson looking for his second win of the season against Trevor Williams a little bit later tonight. We'll step aside. We'll come back. We'll talk with Cole Kubelik. Talk a little draft with him. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com. Also catch us live streaming Facebook, Twitter, YouTube as well. Love to have you along all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. ESPN, SEC Network, and more. Former Auburn center Cole Kubelik joins us here on 3 and Out. Cole, welcome to the show. How are you?
How you doing? Well, guys, appreciate you having me.
Hey, we appreciate you coming on, and certainly college football fans obviously watching Urban Meyer in Jacksonville, and he's talked about the difference between drafting and recruiting. How do you think this goes for a guy who's used to going out and making the pitch to come play for me versus going out and picking?
Well, I mean, I think he surrounded himself by people who have a pretty good idea how this is going to work. He knows that it's going to be different as far as the expectation. He's probably going to have to evaluate guys a little bit more on what they're doing behind the scenes, how they handle themselves, how they're going to act when they're off on their own. They're not going to have as much control over certain guys inside their program or their facility like he would in college. So I think the personality might be a little bit more important as far as bringing guys in. And he's even said that he's going to turn a lot of this over to his staff when it comes to game planning, X's and O's, things of that nature. So I think Urban Meyer's got a chance to be successful just because he knows what winning football looks like, and he's been around it for a long time. We haven't seen college to the NFL work that much, but if there's a guy that I could do it that I think could be successful with it, Urban Meyer would be one of those guys.
And Cole, obviously, when you talk about guys like, you got intriguing guys like Mac Jones, who definitely, is deserving of a first-round pick. But then you got the curious case of a guy like Justin Fields. Obviously, it came out that he said he has epilepsy. People saying he might fall in the draft. Why do you think a guy like Justin Fields, for which since he left Georgia has been lights out, it's like people try to make up things about him to try to justify him slipping if he does indeed slip in the draft?
I think there's always going to be people inside certain organizations that are going to put things out, whether they want another guy to be able to be there when they pick, or they want that person to be there when they pick, or to just try to shuffle things around, maybe to disguise the fact that they're actually going to pick him. So I think you take everything that you hear with a little bit of a grain of salt. That in particular bit of information I thought was, basically a bit of a HIPAA violation. I was a little bit bummed that got out and that was reported, because I feel like that was something that he shared with teams, trying to be honest with them, disclosing personal health information that I actually don't think is going to impact him that much as a football player. But I think some of it has to do with the situation at Ohio State and the scheme that he was in. It's one that doesn't require a lot of reads. It's one that has a lot of quick ball distribution. But, I mean, athletically, physically, he's as gifted and has the tools that every quarterback in this draft has. He just hadn't been asked to do the same things that some of those guys have been asked to do. So some of it just depends on what you're looking for and what you want your quarterback to be able to do and what you want them to be successful with, or what you're going to ask of them. Some guys that might be more mentally before the ball snaps. Some guys that might be a little bit later in that process. Some guys you might want to carry the football 10 to 12 times a game, even between the tackles. Other guys you're not as concerned about mobility. So I don't really know if he's going to go as far as I've seen some people say him at the bottom of the first. I think that this league is too quarterback driven, and there's too many people that recognize his level of talent that are going to let him fall that far. If he gets down around 10, you're going to see a lot of teams ready to move up and get him off the board. So I don't see a dramatic slide coming for Justin Fields.
And Cole, speaking of quarterbacks, Mac Jones, a guy that since the season has ended has shot up the draft boards. Do you think we should be surprised if he does go number 3 on Thursday night?
No, because I think he's a good fit for that offense. Sark ran a motion-based offense at Alabama, and they ran. A lot of people wouldn't really believe this if you just looked at the numbers, because John Mechie was almost a 1,000-yard receiver. We saw what Waddle was doing early in the season, and obviously Smith maybe had the best season for a wide receiver statistically that we've ever seen in college football. And they were a multi-tight end team. They were the majority of the snaps they played with 2, sometimes 3 tight ends. So I think that it's a very similar scheme that Shanahan runs in San Francisco, and that would be one of the reasons that they would feel Mac Jones is the perfect fit for what they do. I think he'd have a great idea of how it's supposed to operate, how you manage the formation, the movement, and then some of the heavy play action stuff is exactly what he was doing for Sark at Alabama. So I think from a skill set and an experience standpoint, Mac would be a perfect fit for what they want to do. I just think 49ers fans are upset that it doesn't feel a lot different than what they have right now in Jimmy Garoppolo. But we know how these administrators are. We know how these front office guys are. They fall in love with somebody, and all of a sudden there's no one that's going to talk them out of it. They believe that's their guy, and they're going to make it happen any way they can.
And Cole, obviously nothing is more intriguing than the NFL draft. But when we look back on this draft and with so many guys, the headliner being Trevor Lawrence, you're talking about the receivers, you're talking about the running backs. Penei Sewell is about as good as you're going to get at the left tackle position, even though he don't got the longest arms. What are we going to remember the most about this draft, maybe 3-4 years from now?
I think unfortunately, we'll remember the quarterbacks that didn't pan out, because we're going to get a lot of quarterbacks go early in this draft. I think you could even see some teams at the bottom of the first begin to extend on the next wave of quarterbacks, which would be Kyle Trask, Kellen Mond, David Sills. One of those guys is going to get off much earlier than we think, just because I think people are going to go ahead and look in and project into next year's draft. They're not going to see a lot of quarterbacks that they really like either. So, but then you're always going to have a Mac Jones that sort of comes out of nowhere, or a Trey Lance that people weren't necessarily thinking was going to be a first-round guy a year in advance of when they were available. So I think that will be one. Number two, I think will be there are going to be great defensive players in the NFL from this draft. None of them are going to be off the board extremely early. I mean, we're looking at a situation where Detroit at 7 or Dallas at 10 could be where the first defensive player comes off the board. I don't know if it's going to be Christian Barmore, Micah Parsons, J.C. Horn, whoever it is. Some of these guys are going to fall and end up having great NFL careers. So I think we could end up looking back and saying, man, there were some great defensive players, whether it's Nick Bolton coming out of Missouri. There were some great defensive players that were in this draft, and for some reason they all fell. They all slid. Why were people not moving to get a couple of these guys off the board a little bit earlier? And that might be, I think, one of our big takeaways 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now.
And Cole, before we let you go, one of those defensive players here from our area, Richard Lecount, out of Georgia, might he be a complete steal of the draft, with a lot of people have him sliding out of the first round into the second, maybe third round?
No, I think he's absolutely one. And we talk about how pass happy the NFL is. Well, that obviously takes a quarterback, it takes receivers, it takes offensive linemen, but I think sort of the forgotten about position there becomes corner and safety. You're going to need guys who can go out and help get you stops. You're going to need people who can cover in different situations. And I think Richard Lecount, somebody who's been asked to do that, whether it's play deep safety, play over the middle of the slot, play some nickel, play outside. He's got the flexibility to be able to do that. So, there doesn't really feel like there's on the surface, a great safety, a game-changing safety in this draft. So he's one that if he ends up being second, third, fourth safety off the board, I think we could be looking back and wondering why that was, and then he ends up being one of the steals of this draft.
Cole Kubelik joining us here on 3 and Out. Cole, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Appreciate it. Cole Kubelik joining us here on 3 and Out. And Ben, obviously a lot to cover there with Cole in a short amount of time, but certainly all the talk about the draft is quarterbacks. But this draft on the whole is kind of been put out there as one of the deepest drafts we can remember, yet we're only talking about the quarterbacks. I think there's going to be a lot of value picks, even down into the middle of the second round, of guys that in most years, if the hysteria around the quarterbacks wasn't there, could have been first rounders.
Absolutely. And I think Cole makes a great point when he said, we could be talking pick 7 to pick 10 before the first defensive player comes off the board. I know you're going to have your headliners. You got the quarterbacks, and I understand that, but we ain't even got the Trey Smith. We ain't got the Alex Leatherwood and the big uglies that keep these quarterbacks, upright. Christian Barmore is probably one of the more intriguing players in the draft when you look at how his stock rose right at the end of the year with Alabama on that defensive line. You talk about J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain, Nick Bolton hit everything that moves out of Missouri. This is a heat-seeking linebacker. Richard Lecount is going to be a more intriguing name because, at the end of the day, you can start for 3 or 4 years at the University of Georgia. I don't care about what you run in the 40. The guy can play football. The tape doesn't lie. So, yeah, Kevin, I know we're going to be talking about the headliners, the quarterbacks, which up to 5, maybe 6 could potentially go in the first round with guys like Justin Fields potentially going 27, pick 32. But I think when it's all said and done, we're going to be talking about guys that weren't headliners who are going to end up being some of the best value picks and, dare I say, best players that come out of this draft.
And again, very interesting to see how the quarterbacks are talked about and looked at, as he said. Probably unfortunate that the news about Justin Fields got put out publicly, but maybe some reason for why people have him sliding down the board. It's just some of the unknown there with that situation. So, I still think that the draft kind of starts with Atlanta because San Francisco, you don't know who but they're going to take a quarterback, and Atlanta really kind of throws everything up in the air. I think their pick becomes eminently valuable at number 4 because you essentially have the first positional player of the draft laying there. So to me, Terry Fontenot's got a lot of good problems to worry about over the next couple of nights before we get to this draft.
Absolutely. I mean, Terry Fontenot just being honest. I mean, with so much, listen, more news comes out on the week of the draft than you probably have leading up to the draft. Terry Fontenot is letting people know, look, the reason why I'm fielding the calls for Julio Jones or any player is because we have no money. The reason why, I wish we weren't at the 4th pick overall is because we have no money. Like the position, don't want to have to pay the money. So, Kevin, something we talked about yesterday, do they stay with that number 4 or do they use it as leverage to be able to move back in the draft? Because at the end of the day, money is not going to appear for the Falcons because the draft is coming. It doesn't work like that, but Terry Fontenot is one of those guys who we're looking forward to being the GM of Atlanta. They didn't tell him all job responsibilities, Kevin, until he got there. Like, yeah, man, Flowery Branch, nice city, growing city, a team, Matty Ice. We have no money. What like, yeah, I went to the safe. Yeah. There's nothing in the safe. Yeah, because there's no money in it. But I just think that, I do think the draft will start at pick number 4. If it goes the way I think it's going to go 1, 2, and 3. But the thing is, if you Atlanta, you're going to have your pick of the best quarterbacks left and pick of every skill position left. We'll see what happens, though.
Yeah, you can't go clipping coupons in the draft to go make it work for you. But no, we got plenty to get to here on 3 and Out. Stick with us all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network, streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com, also live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Love to hear from you on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. Good to have you along here on 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you're with us here on this Tuesday as the draft getting close. Getting closer to about 2 days to go until the first round is officially underway. We already know who pick number 1 is going to be. We already know who pick number 2 is going to be. We feel like pick number 3 could be one of 2 guys. And then it falls to the fact, Cody, it will not be Kyle Trask at number 3. I don't care how much you want it to be, and or Ben wants it to be Kyle Trask. It's not going to be Kyle Trask at 3. Woo! Mac Jones or, I guess, Trey Lance or Justin Fields, if this is all a big, smoke screen okie doke there by the 49ers at 3. And then it falls to the Falcons. Ben, we talked a little bit about that with Cole Kubelik. Terry Fontenot saying, look, we're in a difficult cap situation. If teams call us about a player, we go listen. Which means, hey, we're willing to move guys if it saves us money and helps out our bottom line situation as far as the cap's concerned. So, to me, that puts Atlanta in a unique situation of, is there one of those guys on the board? Is it Justin Fields or is there another guy, Kyle Pitts? That's going to be sitting there on the board, and you say, we really need to pass and trade back, 1, to get more players, and 2, to help our cap situation potentially down the road. Very interesting and probably not an ideal first draft for Terry Fontenot, even though you're in an ideal position in the draft.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely gonna start at the fourth overall pick with Atlanta, and I do agree with something you said, Kevin. While San Francisco is showing their hand, talking about we got 5 guys that we're looking at. Terry Fontenot is kind of keeping it close to the vest by saying, look, we in a cap situation that's rough. We're taking calls on any player. We're trying to keep an open mind about how do we move around, because I know we're getting caught up in having the opportunity to draft the best available player at the next best quarterback, the best tight end, receiver, running back, O-lineman. But we need a lot of help, but we don't have any money. Like that's what it keep coming back to. So I do think that, Kevin, you know how it is. Once that 3rd pick is gone, then hey Terry, listen, man, we really to come up to number 4 to get, all right, you get to move back. And or do it like when you look at the fact that move out of the first round. Move back, then you can move up again. You can kind of use it to your advantage. But I do think because Atlanta is such a bad place, as far as like the cap, that's hurting everything. If they got money to spend, they stay at 4. They get anybody they want. They move on. Well, Julio potentially on the trading block after June 1st. That had to change the way you draft. 2, you need to give Matty Ice as much help on offense as you possibly can. 3, your defense needs everything. You need pass rushers, you need a linebacker, you need safeties, you need corners. And I just think, Kevin, you say to yourself, well, it's Atlanta. We're never going to be known for defense. So that's going to rule out a cornerback or a linebacker or a pass rusher. Do we get Kyle Pitts? Do we get Justin Fields? And I think with Terry Fontenot, it's more perception too, Kevin. They got to do something to make the fan base at least think they're trying to compete. Because think about it. If you Atlanta, you woke up yesterday to Julio Jones trade rumors. What is that? Then Terry Fontenot saying, look, man, we taking phone calls. Then we have no money left. Then here it is. Justin Fields might go 27 or 32, and I just think, Kevin, this is why, I do not envy Terry Fontenot, because at the end of the day, bottom line, fans don't care. Like, if we're being honest, fans do not care that there is no money. They want you to get the best available player that either is going to help now. If it's a skill position player, they're going to help right now. If it's a quarterback, you build them for the future. But that's only 1 pick in the first round, Kevin.
Well, no, he was kind of laughing when he said you can't afford to pay a rookie quarterback. It's not that you can't afford. It's just a quarterback at number 4 that you're going to have to pay up against the cap. And if you take a quarterback at number 4, he is not playing, right? You're basically drafting a player that is not going to play as long as Matt Ryan has 2 legs that work. That's basically, we know this already. So I understand. To me, it'd be very interesting if you're wanting to trade Julio Jones, if you feel good about trading him after June 1st. I know Kyle Pitts would be there. Very interesting. If you're the Falcons, do you trade back given the number that are out there in this draft and still get a wide receiver? I don't think you should, but that would be an interesting possibility if you're Atlanta to move back. And if you get a wide receiver in the first round, Julio's probably all but gone to the highest bidder out there.
I mean, like I said, it's and that's what we're really doing. All these scenarios. Do you stay at 4, pick a quarterback? Do you move out of 4 to get more picks? Are you sure? No. Well, I'm not gonna. Yes, you're gonna have a lot of suitors to get number 11. There's gonna be a lot of teams willing to trade for him. But what do you get in return? Am I getting draft picks? Am I getting future first round, second round draft? Am I getting a player for Julio Jones? I mean, I just think that when you start talking about what this front office has done, when you give Matty Ice the contract you gave him, do you give Julio 3 years, 66 million, 64 guaranteed? 2 guys can almost take up, dare I say, $60-70 million. 2 guys on the back end of their career. So yeah, I do think Terry Fontenot, he's gonna have to prove his worth, dare I say, in 2 days from now, to see what he's setting up. Because if you get a quarterback, okay, they're thinking future because they got the present with Matty Ice. If they get Kyle Pitts or Jamar Chase, they trying to win with offense. If they move back, Kevin, this is the thing too. If they move back, then who do they get? Obviously, if they move back, they think the guy they want is still going to be there.
Well, who would you be disappointed in if you move? Is there? Because I think the Falcons, it's hard pressed to mess this up. I think because the draft is deep, you have a number of needs. You move back, you make. I think it's hard for the Falcons to really mess up. Who is a guy or a position that would get drafted that would make you say you move back for that, or you pick that? Like that would make you really upset at the pick.
A running back. I mean, and I know I'm always on the side of the running backs. You move back and you got a running back when most of those running backs are going to potentially probably slide to the second round, Najee Harris and Travis Etienne. I would be real disappointed because, number one, you got your scouting department. You got Terry Fontenot. You got Arthur Smith. You got Rich McKay. These guys should be able to come together because think about it, Kevin. That's something interesting too, though. If teams are saying that they can see Justin Fields slipping to 27 to 32, do I move back and still get him? Like, can I move back, add picks? Now that, ladies and gentlemen, will be a home run. You move back to just say, now me personally, I do not think he's going to make it to the 20s. That's just me. You move back to, 15. And you added some picks in the second round and you still get Justin Fields. Then you get a Travis Etienne or Najee Harris in the second round. Then you start talking about it. Now we're talking about, okay, Terry, I see what you're doing, because I just think that Mac Jones probably going to go number 3. That's fine. But if you Trey Lance is good enough to be a Falcon, just like Justin Fields is. Trey Lance and Mac Jones have played the same number of games in college. They played the same number. So when people saying, Trey Lance only played 1 year, so did Mac Jones. He only played 1 year. So one's in Alabama, the other's in North Dakota. It's fine. I just think that, Kevin, that's probably the win-win scenario. Move back, still get one of these quarterbacks. Because if you don't get Justin Fields, you get a Trey Lance, ain't nobody going to be mad because Trey Lance, whatever quarterback goes to Atlanta, is not going to play. So it's not like whoever you get. But if you stay at 4 because you don't think your guy's going to be there, we got to live with it too. I just think that this is what happens when you pick it in the top 5 and you have no money, because at least Jacksonville got money to spend. These other teams got money to the Jets. Even if they got money to spend, it's not really going to matter. I just want to be clear when you say it's not like baseball when you say, hey, they have no money because the owners don't want to spend. They have no money because of cap room, right? And you move back in the draft. You say, well, what's the big deal moving back? Even again on a rookie contract, moving back from 4 to 15 is millions of dollars potentially. Moving back just that far. And think about this too, Kevin. People be like, well, what is the salary cap? I think the salary cap is like 198 or something like that. I could be wrong. And people like, I said, 198 million, that's a lot. No, you got to pay 53 guys with that. 50, and two of them, it's roughly 60 million. So 2 guys are taking up that much money. So I just think that on most teams, on a fifth three roster team, you might have, and this is high, 8 guys making over $1 million. Because some of them making 15 and 20, so it gets up there really high. Most guys are making league minimum. And listen, league minimum now is $600K. So this ain't nothing to slouch about, people.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Just saying, $600,000. I'm 21 years old, and I'm getting $600K. Ladies and gentlemen, cha-ching. I'm just saying that's a lot of cheese. So I'm happy for all the rookies that's going to get drafted, but Terry Fontenot, he's going to have to get really creative because we keep talking about Julio, and we keep talking about Matty Ice, Deion Jones, Grady Jarrett, Matthews, anybody that's making over 10 mil, either restructure or we might have to let you go for a salary cap hit. And we ain't even got the training camp yet. That's when those camp casualties really happen. So just because you still here after the draft, don't mean you're gonna be here for the season start.
Yeah, interesting perspective for the draft for the Atlanta Falcons. Justin Fields, you mentioned him a couple times there, Ben. Obviously, we've seen reports this whole time. Okay, maybe he won't be 2, he might be 4. Then he might be, 5 or 6 if somebody wants to trade up again. Now you're seeing guys like Chris Sims and others saying, could Chris Sims in his latest mock draft had him going down in the 30s, 32. Some other Bucky Brooks had him at 27, others at 18, 19, 20 range. I think that'd be a heck of a steal. I know the medical stuff that came out about him is probably, it's unfortunate that it came out, at least publicly. He probably, he said Justin Fields told the team about the epilepsy situation. But how much of that would scare a team off to make it drop that far? I mean, again, you're talking about very interesting. Mac Jones was, maybe late first round, and he's kind of had that precipitous rise. And then Justin Fields has kind of had a fall like no other quarterback. Trey Lance stayed up there. It's kind of interesting to see how much of that on the medical side has some teams a little cautious on Justin Fields, maybe with a top 5 pick.
And they're going to be very cautious. And think about it, Kevin, once again, we're not just drafting for now. Well, this is the future of our franchise. This is the future face of our franchise. And while he's played with that his whole life, that's not the NFL. While he's been, elite his whole life, that's not the NFL. And the fact of the matter is, another thing that's hurting him, he played Ohio State. You know who else played Ohio State with first round? Dwayne Haskins. And unfortunately, you will get grouped with the people you come with. Like, Kyler Murray went number 1, but Baker Mayfield went a year before. So the offenses that you play in have a lot to do with you, have a lot to do with the scheme, and have a lot to do with what can he execute. Right, wrong, indifferent. People say, well, that Ohio State offense ain't hard to run. Okay. Where he's going is going to be extremely hard to run. Just from the terminology. You got to be able to – our coaches say in order to run a play, you must first call it. You got to call it out. And these stuff get really, really wordy. And so I do think that Kevin, while a lot of things are working against Justin Fields, he's going to be a first-round pick, right? And I would say this. If I'm Terry Fontenot, I am using that to my advantage because I don't think it's going to be 27 to 32. I just don't see it being that. But if he could trade back and still get – because I do think this. I think teams are going to let him start dropping. I don't think he's going to make it to the 20s. But if they could trade back and still get Justin Fields, I think that would be an A-plus draft because you've addressed your future while not having to pay him as much, while still finding a way to address your team through the draft because – dare I say, Atlanta's going to be looking real similar to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're going to have a lot of guys in their first and second years and a bunch of role players just to be able to stay under the cap. And unless your last name is Jones, or Ryan, you are not safe if you're a veteran making, dare I say, 10, 12 mil a year.
Yeah, going to be fun. I think the Falcons, to me, one of the more intriguing teams in the draft from all the possibilities that they have to how do they work the draft to their financial advantage as well. We've got more to come here on 3 and Out on this Tuesday. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com on your mobile device with the ESPN app. Good to have you along here on this Tuesday afternoon. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you are making us a part of your day. Again, if you missed any portion of the show, you can go to espncoastal.com, Spotify, YouTube for a podcasted version of 3 and Out each and every day. But Ben, obviously a couple of days out here from the draft. It seems like we've been saying Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson for months and months. I think I'll be most excited about the draft for whoever is the first non-quarterback pick, just so we can talk about somebody else.
Yeah, and the thing is, Kevin, I mean, let's face it. You know, if you play baseball, you want to be a pitcher. Headliner. You play football, you want to be a quarterback. Headliner, and if you play basketball, just hope that LeBron James is no longer playing, and maybe people will talk about you. I just think that, Kevin, this draft is the most intriguing, not because of who's in it, because it's the current one. We were saying this in 2020, saying it in 2019, but Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Kyle Trask, Ian Book, Kellen Mond, the quarterbacks run the draft. But it is deep. This is going to be one of the deepest drafts we ever seen. What does the Atlanta Falcons do at number 4? Everybody will be watching, but I think everybody's intrigued at number 3. Because you just don't know about Kyle Shanahan. Like they saying Kyle Shanahan want one guy. They say John Lynch want another guy. We'll see. You know, I mean, when those two Titans clash, I just think it's going to be a great draft, Kevin. And the second to 7th round, we're going to be going, oh, they got him. I'm just saying the NFL draft, nothing like it, because different than the NBA draft, at least we know who these players are. Because, I mean, with the NBA draft, outside the first 2 picks, they'll be like, you know, from Italy. What? I mean, you just don't know where the guy's coming from. But I think it's going to be a great draft, though.
Well, I do think that looking at this draft compared to other drafts, there are a lot of players in this draft that are high quality. I keep seeing mock drafts, and there are guys that way back when had first-round grades who are, quote, sliding because of the way quarterbacks and others are going. It's like, now they're in the top mid-second rounds. Like, so you're talking about potential first-round talent that you could get in the second round. I mean, if I'm Jacksonville, for example, Urban Meyer, you looking at this draft saying, look, theoretically with the type of talent you have out here, I could be looking at 3 first-round graded picks in my first 3 picks. One was the number 1 overall, my second pick in the first round, and then the number 1 pick in the second round. You could be looking at potentially, in terms of talent, 3 first-round picks. Coming out of this thing. Falcons, same kind of deal with the top of the second round. You could get a guy that was probably legit 15 to 25 rated in the draft there at your second pick in the draft.
Yeah, and that's what makes the draft intriguing. I mean, we get so caught up in the guys at the top, but you got to fill out the rest of your roster, you know, with some of these guys who probably going to have to be key contributors as rookies. That's the thing. Most of the time when you know, 3rd through 7th round, you still got to make the team. But, Kevin, when you look at the salary cap situation, a lot of these teams are in, not just the Falcons, these guys are going to have to come in ready to play. I know it's going to be about the top guys. Rob Gronkowski was a 2nd-round pick. I think Travis Kelce was like a 4th-round pick. So don't think you cannot find Richard Sherman, I think, was a 5th-round pick. So don't think that just because – and listen, the guys between round 3 and 7 have better careers in the first 2 rounds because they ain't under the same scrutiny. If I'm the number 1 overall pick, I expect you to win the Super Bowl MVP, win the regular season MVP, and be the face of the franchise. It's not going to happen, but that's what the expectations are.
Yeah, out of control there. I can only imagine what the Trevor Lawrence mania that's going to start once they finally make the pick. I mean, probably will get sick of hearing about it in Jacksonville. It's like, oh, Trevor Lawrence is going to come save the franchise. We'll see. He's got some big expectations to fill there in Jacksonville. Appreciate John Shipley, Jaguar Report, for joining us here on the program. Rich Stiles, host of the Back Nine Boys, joined us, and Cole Kubelik, SEC Network and ESPN, joined us here on the show as well, talking draft. Again, if you missed any portion of the show, ESPNcoastal.com, our YouTube channel, Spotify with the podcasted version of the show. You can catch that there as well. Hit us up on Twitter. We'd love to hear from you at Pigskin Radio, and we will see you tomorrow here on 3 and Out. Braves and Cubs coming up 6:05. We'll talk to you soon all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network.